Here.
Supervisor Thurston.
Here, everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a minute. Just would like to have everybody bow their head in prayer. You know, as we know, we hit a milestone that Bill talked about, you know, at our 9/11 ceremony of the 343rd FDNY firefighter who suffered illness and has now since died as a result of 9/11. That's Robert Falco, and we're seeing 3 to 4 passing away each month. Just a few days before that, Hilda Venata had passed away, so let's bow our head in a moment of prayer for those who have passed and those yet to pass, and may their families live with a lot of happiness in the remaining days that they have with their loved ones. Thank you. Please be seated. And the agenda, I have a couple of changes with respect to the agenda. One is that Donna Lenhart for item number 3 is not able to be here tonight, so we'll defer discussion on Friends of Carnwath. In its place, Jessica is here to talk about the 35th anniversary of the Senior Center when we get to that. Also, we have had a late resolution of an item we need to have before our Carnival event. This is a resolution concerning parking out at Schlott House, so I'd like to have that added to the agenda. It says order temporarily prohibiting parking on Old Myers Corner Road during town event. So those are the only changes I have. Anybody else have anything?
No. So I'll make a motion that we adopt the amended agenda for the 3 items the supervisor just mentioned.
Second.
Okay, motion and second to adopt the amended agenda. All in favor? Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. For the record, Councilman Bill has arrived. Also, we'd like to acknowledge the minutes of September 14, 2023. Would I have a motion for that, please?
Make that motion.
I'll second it.
Motion and second. All in favor acknowledging the minutes?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passes. The next item is a public portion of the meeting. I have a motion to open the public portion, please.
Make a motion to open the public portion.
Second.
Motion and second, open the public portion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. So if anybody here has, Mr. Stenger.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I'm hoping I'm doing this from a process point of view the correct way. But you have on your agenda an item for discussion, which is to deal with the potential extension of the town of Wappinger's water system to the potential development of Joey Estates. And I think the process is that I speak about that now, and then I go sit down and you have your discussion. If you want to hear more from me, you'll let me know. Otherwise, I'll forever hold my peace, at least for a while. So if that's correct, then I'd like to address those points now.
Let me just ask a procedural question. Mr. Horan, it wasn't clear to me from the letter, an application under our town code? I think it was the 384 or something like that.
So typically under the town law, if a property owner wishes to petition to extend a water district, it's done by petition. In the past, one of the things that we've done as a preliminary step is set an escrow for review of the map plan and report and petition. And I guess one of the other issues is a discussion of who's going to create the map plan and report.
Well, actually, my discussion was much more preliminary than that.
Okay.
And so I will not. Well, so if you can, I have to kind of tell you a little bit of background, what's happened since the last time we were here. I'm not getting off topic. I'm building to topic. So, as you know, we've made an application for an 88-lot subdivision on our property called Joey Estates. As you know, we wanted to do it as a conservation subdivision, and although we do not yet have guidance for process from the town board, as to how we might achieve that result. We have gone forward in front of the planning board to attempt to get a minimum lot count, or a maximum lot count, not minimum, I'm sorry, a maximum lot count of the potential density at that location in a conventional setting, so that you would have in front of you what the maximum lot count potentially looks like, because it's kind of like a sketch plan analysis by the planning board. It's certainly not a resolution for preliminary approval, because what we're going to do is, we get that sketch plan approval for these potential number of lots. At some point, your board has to say to the planning board whether they can cluster them or not. And you haven't yet, and we still don't know how that process works, because the process hasn't been laid out for us by the board. But what has happened in the interim, as we proceeded in front of the planning board was in touch with the Department of Health, obviously, because they're circulating for lead agency. And I got a letter from Dan Keeler, who is the senior public health engineer who's been assigned to this project, and I discussed it with him. So as you know, I'm going to step over here for a second. So I don't know if any of you have seen this or not. If you've not been in front of the planning board, you haven't.
No.
But this is what 88 individual building lots looks like. And it's proposed that this will be community water. Because we can do community water. We don't need town water. We can do it on our own. And that's about roughly 3 miles of pipes and roads. And it's 88 houses. That's going to be a price point somewhere between $850 and $950. What we're hoping is that by using the conservation easement mechanism that's available under the code, that we'd be able to go back to the planning board and ask the planning board to cluster them. And if we do that, then this subdivision proposal, which covers roughly 120 acres, will get reduced to 88 single-family condominiums, not apartments, not rental properties, condominiums. Well, condominiums can be rented, but that's not the intention here. The intention is to sell. And we're looking at a price point of $450, $500 for those units, which is, if you're asking any of the young lawyers to work for me, is still an extraordinary reach for somebody who's a young professional who wants to stay in the town of Watkins. But that's what the market will bear. And so we can do this smaller, again, with a community water system, with water supply to be found on the site. Now, what you need to know, and then I'll just bring you into what the Keeler letter said to me,
Okay.
is that the town's water system, when you're coming, so you'll know this, so I live in, like, I lived at the top of Winfield Terrace. I mean, 100, long time ago. But when you're coming up Old Hopewell, you bear right to get on Cedar Hill. And as you bear right to get on Cedar Hill Road, from the Wappinger side of it, as you go up, you'll run into this property, and the town's water system, a hydrant is located directly across the street from here. So this is not a major deal to bring water into this project. Question is whether or not the town is going to be open to that question. Because what happened was Dan Keeler wrote a letter, and I don't know if you have it in your package. If you do, that's fine, but if not, let me just read you the last paragraph, because this is why I called him. And he says, Section 11.2L of the Dutchess County Sanitary Code specifies, quote, whenever a duly approved public water supply and/or public sewage system is available and accessible for any site or property within a realty subdivision, No new individual water supply or individual sewage system shall be constructed in such site or property may be required to be connected to said public system or systems. That's the quote that he quotes from the code. And then he says, this department is also aware of low-yielding wells in the area of the proposed development. Therefore, it is strongly recommended to extend the water district to include the proposed project. So I called him, and I said, okay, that makes perfect sense to me, but this project is having kind of a rocky start here, and I don't know where the town will stand on extending its water district. And so if the town wished to extend the water district, you would extend it to the entire parcel. If we are able to get clustering under the conservation code, we would propose to limit the development to where we have the 88 townhouses. And I want you to understand, none of us here can say that the planning board will ultimately say 88. We just don't know. But we do know what our drawings look like. We're looking to get a sketch plan. It's a maximum number. It can be less, but it can never be greater under the subdivision plan. So the question then becomes, for me anyway, was I'm looking at this going, all right, we can spend money developing our community water system, which we can do, but we know that there's an impact on wells in the neighborhood, which is what we would prefer not to be positioned as causing a difficulty in that issue. We'd rather be positioned in a way that we might be bringing something positive to it. But at the same token, I'm keenly aware of the politics of this application. And at the same token, in order to make that application, because you're all correct, and I appreciate this informal ability to address the board, it's going to cost me $50,000, or I should say, not me, I'm just a lawyer, but the guys that pay me to be here, it's going to cost them roughly 50 grand to make that application. And the way I calculate that number is it's about 25 grand for the private PE, and we were looking at moving the system because that'll bring a benefit. And usually, by my rule of thumb, the PE is 25, let's figure the town's PE, and the work on that side is going to be 25. So I don't want to go down the road of spending $50,000 to something that's just not going to work politically for this board, because as I understand it, there is a body of law that would say this might be a political decision entirely. Maybe not completely entirely, but somewhat. And so I asked Mr. Keeler, what do I do? And he said, go talk to the town board and see what they say. And that's what I'm doing here. That's what I'm doing here, because I like to respond to Mr. Keeler. I think he's right. I think you're right across the street. And I think that because you're right across the street, and you have the capacity, because we understand you do, and if I'm wrong in that, I apologize in advance, but the limited research and the phone calls I've been able to make say that we have capacity. And if we have that capacity, then all we got to do is go across the street with a pipe, and we have water. We don't have any impact on a local well. What we do have is a couple of things. If we can cluster this, we will have 117 acres of open space, as opposed to another McMansion subdivision, which we'll build, because we're going to do something with our land. Can't just hold it, not develop it. And we can sell it to people for $850 or $950, and there's a market for it. It's a market coming out of the city in a big way. Or we can build this kind of housing, which might or might not propose housing for folks who grew up in Washington who want to stay here. But either way, if we get to the water, what we'll do is we'll generate roughly, at 88 lots, we'll roughly generate around $750,000 in fees for the town. There's $285,000 for the cost of the hookup fees at $3,200 a shot. Now, there may be more by the time we get there, but that's what I calculated today. There's at 88 lots. At 88 lots times, I think I calculated it. I may be wrong on this. 4,000. No, 5,000 a lot for rec fees.
Yeah,
That's roughly $750,000. Now, there's things that there are ways to do something to help these communities. There is a capability of bringing the intersection of Cedar Hill and Dorothy. It's going to cost about $1 million to do it, but somewhere in this deal, there might be a way to do that. But we can't get there anywhere if the board is not inclined or has questions that I can't answer in advance about the source of water. Because what would concern me is we go down this road and there's a position taken by anybody in this town other than the planning board saying, you know, you get too many lots. What would concern me is an on-the-record or an off-the-record request that, yeah, this looks good, but you got to cut your lots by 25%. All I want to know is if you can tonight, give me something I can tell Mr. Keeler. Give me something I can say to him, and something more than I think that, well, we'll follow the rule of law. I know we'll follow the rule of law. That's what I've been doing here since I showed up on this application nearly a year ago. I have no more ambition to be back in a courtroom than anyone else does. I just would like to know, if possible at all, from this board as to whether or not, if there's no capacity issue, oh, I forgot to say one more thing. In order to do this at this site, this crossing the road, it's more than just a pipe. There's got to be a big pump station that goes in there as well. And that pump station is got to benefit to everyone who lives uphill. Because at some point, you're going to want to bring water up to those people. If we went up to Dorothy Lane along Cedar Hill Road, up the hill, that's 35 houses. Now, I don't know if all 35 houses are having well issues or not, but if any of them are having well issues, the value of their houses have just been restored by the fact that there's now town water available to them. So that's what I'm here for. I'm just asking that question. And I'm not asking for a commitment from anyone saying, well, I'm in favor of it, but I'd really like to hear someone say to me, if they're not in favor of it, that they'll never be in favor of it. If they're not in favor of it because of density, that we just put it on the table so we can all deal with it. Because why not, right? I mean, it is a factor. It is a fact that if the size of the project's too big and you're not inclined because of the size to look at public or town water, just say it. We'll all know what we're dealing with. I won't spend 50 grand on making an application. I'll spend my money instead developing the community water system.
So Ken, thank you. Jim, back to you. You know, last time Mr. Stenger was here, we did discuss about coming up with a process. But as I understand it, there is kind of a process in place in Section 234 and follow on to the code with respect to extension water districts. Is that not correct? That would analyze, is there water? You know, that's where the engineer gets involved. But so really for advice to the board, what is the process that we consider?
Well, what Ken is, I mean, I spoke about the process before. There's a petition, there's a map plan and report. Part of that looks at the costs. One of the things that's required in the map plan and report is a detail of what are the mains that service the extension, what are the things like a pumping station, if there needs to be a storage tank. All of that stuff would go into determining that engineering map plan and report. Also, as part of that, you develop what's called a benefit assessment formula for each of the lots that would be in there, and you then divide the cost of the extension among the lots that are to be created. You know, we've done that, numerous times. But again, here, as as Mr. Stenger noted, the costs of putting in the $50,000 he's talking about is just design costs.
Yes.
He's not even talking about construction costs. So the construction cost is what's appropriate. Well, construction and design costs are allocated among the properties as part of the district extension. So that's all of the formal process. The question that Ken is asking right now is, if the board is not going to consider this application, I won't make the application, I won't go forward with that process. Rather, when he talks about community water supply, I assume he means a waterworks corporation.
Yeah, we would have the capability on site to provide our own water and run it as a community water system on site. We can do that. We'll have the capability of doing that. And I don't want to spend $50,000 to develop a theoretical project that, before I even start, nobody wants. Why would I want to waste your time, my money? That's all. So I'm looking for, I understand, and Jim's exactly right. I know exactly what we have to do if we decide to do it. But I don't want to spend 50 grand in the dark. It'd be just like burning money. I don't want to do that. And I think nobody in the town would want to do that. I would like to think you wouldn't want me to do that either.
I don't think he's, well, they're already in the district.
Okay, I guess, since we have an item, we can continue discussion, since it's a public portion. Thank you,
I'll sit
Ken.
down if you want.
Sit down, yes, for right now, because then if anybody else has any, from the public, any other comments with this or any other item, now's the time, so we let those go through.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments on any agenda item? Seeing none? Do I have a motion to close?
Make a motion to close the public portion.
Second.
Motion and second to close the public portion. All in favor? Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion closed. So now we come to the first item, but I wanted to give other people the opportunity to talk first. So the first discussion item is this particular one, extension of United Wappinger Water District Mid-Hudson Development Corporation. So I put it on the agenda because of your letter. We requested Dan Keeler's letter. So it's open for any further, discussion. So,
Has Mike Tremper talked about this at all?
I talked with Mike just briefly, and of course he, again, confirmed kind of the technical process, and he would weigh in on it. We do have more than sufficient capacity in water at this point in time, and he confirmed that again today, even, certainly the permitted level, but even below the permitted level, that is not being fully met. So when you look at on the average of 1 million gallons, a day, and then the storage capacity, he said it's more than adequate to cover this and other, projects. But that's all I asked him at this point in time, just to confirm that. So, any other, comments or discussion? Okay, don't see any.
I accept your silence as your answer, and I will report it to Mr. Keeler. Thank you, though, for
Thank you.
putting me on the agenda.
Okay, you're welcome. Thank you. Kevin, you'd like to give us a report, please? Update?
We're going to have a WVA meeting this Thursday at 10 o'clock. So a number of the things that I did want to talk about, we'll discuss on Thursday. And the only one remaining thing to talk about is Carnifal. And I plan on having a table there. I've put out the word for the banner owners to come and just show up and help out, greet people, and so far it's been totally rewarding. People are very anxious to come out to Carnifal and also to help. Now, I plan on having veterans literature there. As you know from the shirt I'm wearing and what I've been doing for the last 6 months, I'm the service officer, one of the service officers in the county, and I plan on bringing literature with me, not to be obtrusive, not looking as though I'm selling anything, but strictly for information. And I've been in the multi-level marketing field before, so I know what it's like to try and sell something. I don't plan on that, so if that is ever going to be a concern, belay that. And that's it.
Thank you,
Okay.
Kevin.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you very much, Kevin.
Thank you for all you do with the veterans, too. Sure. Thank you.
Jessica, please come up, talk about our anniversary event that's going to be happening next month.
So we didn't know this at the beginning of the year when we budgeted. We were told by one of our seniors whose mother was, I believe, in the first 5 original members of the senior center, that this is the 35th anniversary of the opening of the senior center. And we thought, well, that's something that deserves a celebration, 35 years. As Bill has said before, we were one of the first around to be a town that opened a senior center, and many have come since, but it's always good to be the trailblazer. So we're looking at, and part of the reason why I say we didn't know this at the beginning of the year is we didn't budget for a 35th anniversary party. So we are looking to, on October 24th, have a day full of activities for the seniors, a light breakfast. We have a certain favorite performer of theirs who will be coming in to join.
Surprise, right?
Yes.
But you all know.
Yeah,
Yes.
to join us that morning. We are going to serve lunch, and we're going to have a day full of games and activities for the seniors. Now, to do that, we do need some funding. We were looking for $1,500 to be moved into the special events line for the senior center. And with that, we would be able to fund the entire day and also accommodate any other exciting things that we come up with between now and then.
And your entertainment's free that day?
Yes, no charge.
Well,
About 70 people.
I owe him a little something,
Okay.
Yeah.
but yes, I got him.
So we're looking to do 70 people, and actually down here in the main meeting room, because we can't accommodate 70 people in the actual.
So is there a sign up yet for that?
Not until we've kind of finalized this discussion.
Okay.
Well, I'm in favor.
Yeah.
So am I.
Second.
Okay, motion and second, all in favor? Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed.
1,500.
1,500.
1,500.
Nice try.
I know, right? Do we want to do parking while I'm up here, or?
Sure.
Might as well.
Might as well,
Yes.
Okay.
Get it over with.
So the attorney drafted for us in order for the temporarily prohibit parking on one side of Old Myers Corners Road. This comes as a request of the fire department because, as many of you know, Old Myers Corners Road is not particularly wide in the first place, and one side of the road has no shoulder. So when people park along that side, they're basically parking on the road. So it becomes a difficult situation to get fire apparatus, EMS, all those kinds of things down that side of the road. Last year, we posted no parking signs, but as they were not officially approved by resolution of the board, they were not obeyed nor enforceable. This year, we need them to be obeyed.
So do we have alternative parking so that is there shuttles, anything out there for people?
So we don't have the shuttle this year. It was actually very underused last year for the price that we paid for it. But we do have parking at the mosque. We have some parking on site up at Schlott House, up on the parking lot side, and we also have overflow parking at the New Hackensack Fire Department.
But getting people back and forth on that road is dangerous. How are we going to take care of that?
So the primary lot, which we really haven't had to overflow much into the other lot, is the mosque. So that's just crossing a single road.
Will there be
There's a lot
sheriffs?
of traffic on that road.
Yeah, it's a lot of
Jessica,
traffic
you
on there.
know
You have
that.
a sheriff's department there to
Oh,
help
yeah,
supervise?
we have sheriff's department, we have crossing, we have lights that we have procured to be able to better light that. What happened last year with the shuttle bus and all the great intention of it is nobody wanted to wait for the loop a bit. They actually preferred to walk, which was something we didn't anticipate. We thought we were solving a great problem by getting a shuttle bus, and it was hardly used. So,
But there is still parking available at the Hackensack Firehouse as well for overflow?
correct. And there are certain areas of on-street parking in the area. So one side of Old Myers Corners is still open to parking, the side where there is actually enough room to pull off to the side and not be parking in the middle of the road. There are portions of Myers Corners where there's on-street parking, and with the exception of the day of the parade, there's on-street parking in front of the park on Myers Corners, as well as along certain portions of All Angels Hill Road.
So bottom line, it's a safety issue we're trying to take
Yeah,
care of.
that's what
Yeah.
I'm concerned about, the
Yeah.
traffic and...
And at the major intersection, we have sheriff's deputies posted. We have lights that'll be lighting the area. The sheriff's deputies monitor that intersection from almost start to finish of every day of that event. There isn't a time when there's not a sheriff's deputy at that intersection to cross people across that busy road.
I'll make a motion that we approve.
Second.
Yeah, I just on the question, I agree with the approach this time with respect to resolution, because there's no teeth, obviously, in just our signs. But what I would ask is that, Jim, if we can procure the emergency no parking signs, the standard sign that is used in the village and in neighboring communities. It says it's an actual sign which indicates the authority of who is
Declaring it?
declaring this emergency no parking. This way it's standardized, because printing out these signs and hanging them down the street, really, it's good intention, but
I tried to make them look so official last year,
We
and
could
still,
procure it and use it in the future.
yeah.
well, you could, but I mean, it's just more durable. They're somewhat, heavier stock, and if we can do it that way,
Yeah.
it's going to be more effective.
I mean, technically, they have to comply with the MUTCD. I looked today to try to see if the MUTCD had a standard temporary no parking sign. I did not see it, but, you know, the typical no parking sign is white background with red lettering.
It might be as simple as talking to Commissioner Paul Italiano and getting one of the village ones that they use for the parade, for the Dutchess County
Yeah.
St. Patrick's,
Yeah.
and having them reproduced on the same stock, same colors locally, and using those, because I think it's going to work out better that way.
Or maybe
Yeah.
we can get one of those signs that we have for our events, big ones that say traffic will be slowed down, be careful, put it far enough.
We have a
in advance.
gentleman at the county who assists us with those,
No,
so
but
we
that's
can make
very
sure.
important. And
Yeah.
I don't remember seeing that, and I think if people see it sooner than later, don't take this road, because it's going to be, a lot of traffic on it.
So if we could just approve the motion, I'll expand
Yeah,
upon
we have a
that.
motion.
Yeah, I was going to say Bill's our gentleman in
Yeah,
the
motion
county.
and second. All in
Second.
favor? Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passes.
So on the variable message boards, my office has the two boards that are on
Good.
Route 9 by 00 for the school bus campaign right now. So those are scheduled to be moved from those locations on the Monday prior to this event and
Good.
going on Myers Corners Road. So we will have those.
Good, yeah, thank you.
And I just want to let everybody know, and then I'll go away, I promise, is we plan to we want to publicize the heck out of this. And the reason why we want to publicize the heck out of this is because we do not want to write a single ticket nor tow a single person. We need to keep that area safe. And if we can prevent this from happening in the first place, rather than being something that we actually have to come down on anybody for disobeying, that's our goal in this whole process. All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think you're done with me all.
Okay, thank you. Have a good evening. Next item relates to two change orders for the town highway garage, plumbing and electrical. Tim, do you want to just briefly summarize?
Sure, thank you. So as you may recall, we chose to do the renovation work in one of the bays to turn it into a break room. The original thought was to renovate the building across the street, but this, I think, would give you a much solid building, new roof, new walls, et cetera. And as they got into this and working with the highway crew, they're starting to see some amenities that they feel would, enhance their workspace that weren't initially contemplated with the renovation plan. So for the plumbing, it's adding a slop sink. They're going to have to relocate a gas-fueled space heater, and then wanted to put in new compressed air route for their lines and a tank for their tools on the plumbing side. And then for the electrical, it's really adding some additional outlets for chargers. If you recall, we had a previous change order to add an upgrade to the electrical service to allow for a second vehicle lift in the future, and that was because DMV is now requiring the highway garage to do like a standard level vehicle inspection for their fleet vehicles. So we also now need to move the data link that would be used for these inspections to the new highway space. And then also adding 4 kind of recoilable cord reels so that they have electric in their work bays and they can pull it off the coil. So Again, there's nothing outlandish, but these are items that weren't contemplated in the original plan.
That for a total of $23,000 for the slop sink. plumbing.
23,712 for the plumbing
Yep.
and 15,838.
Correct.
In your packet, they broke down both labor and materials
Yep.
relative to both of them.
Yeah, looks fine to me. Anybody have?
So
any
we have,
comments?
it's item number 11, so if you want to do the resolution, there's actually no specific resolution for item
No
11.
specific one right now.
Right, so we can, if you want to do it right now, that's
Yeah,
fine.
let's do it right now. Joe, all right with you? Or do you prefer to do it?
It's under number 11, it actually doesn't have a resolution, it's here after 132. Plumbing electrical order change. So we're,
So I had the documents, I gave you a copy.
No, the documents are attached, but I put them as an appendix, so they wouldn't.
Okay.
okay.
So you could do them as a resolution for the floor, and I would suggest doing one resolution for each change order.
All right, so I'll propose the first resolution for the $23,000. And that's for the change that Tim just specified. So it's one, and then we're going to do them together, or you want to do them separate, Jim?
Separate.
I would do them separately, one
Okay.
for plumbing, one's for electrical.
So plumbing first for the $23,000. I make a motion that we approve that.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor? Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. And this authorizes also the supervisor to sign those
Okay.
change orders.
Yep.
Do the next one?
Huh?
Go ahead.
Go to the next one, the second one. Al? You
You're on a roll.
electrical?
Sure, so I also make a motion that we also approve $15,838 for the electrical work. Second.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passes. Anything else, Tim, on highway garage?
I mean,
Or any other?
work is progressing. I've asked for an updated schedule. One of the trades is a little behind the other, but with the execution of these change orders, they can proceed on the plumbing, which will
Tim,
advance them.
how are we doing against the money that we approved for the bonding? We're still within the budget, I assume?
I don't have that figure handy. I don't know
Okay.
what formally was approved. I do know that we built in
Some
contract
contingency, I got it. just in
contract
case.
allowances for
Yep.
each of the contracts, so these plumbing and electric are above and beyond, but there's still about 20, maybe $16,000.
So you had some money there for in case there was
allowance with the
change orders?
GC.
That's fine.
Right.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good. So have Jonathan send the change orders to us
Yes.
in the morning so we can execute them. Thank you.
Thanks, Tim.
Thank you.
Next item is Resolution 2023-97. This is a resolution authorizing payment in lieu of taxes agreement with Old Myers NY LLC. Jim, you want to?
I don't have a resolution to this, so if we leave it on the table and
Let's
we can
table it.
address
Okay.
Table it.
Motion second to table this resolution. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passes. Jim, have you talked with them yet?
I've kind of had a couple of, I talked to the secretary, I've left some messages, so they're interested in probably coming to an agreement. Whether they come up to our number in full, I don't know, but they are certainly
So let me ask you a question.
discussing about changing the number.
This is another one where we keep tabling. Do they need more time than 2 weeks?
No, I just, with
Because we've
various
tabled
things
now,
that
this is now the fourth time, so.
No, I just haven't, between
Okay.
issues where I was
I'm
not.
just saying, if they need a little more time, let's give them more time rather than
Yeah.
every 2 weeks.
Yeah, we'll move it to December.
No, it's, 2 weeks should
I
be
think we
fine,
have to
because
act
they've been calling me, and I've been, I put in one call, they put in 3. So
Okay.
they're anxious to get it done, and
Okay.
we'd like to get it through, because I
We'd like to get
believe
it done, too.
they're moving through the planning
board
board
would like to
process,
get it done, too.
getting ready to get the planning board documents on it.
Has the school district reached an agreement on this?
Yes, they
Yeah,
have.
it's in the packet.
We discussed that before. It was lower than the amount that we had come back to say to increase it to.
But the amount's not what's holding up the issue, is it? What's actually holding up the issue?
Yeah, it was just the amount that, we had done, the last one we did was for the solar farm on 9D, which was a higher number than which, that they had presented.
We instructed Jim to go back. There was a
Right,
number.
we asked for 65, and I think they wanted 55 or 5,400.
Yeah, so it was, percentage-wise, there were, different numbers, and the conversation, the first conversation I had was that they weren't going to come back, that because of changes in the economy, they wouldn't come back to as high a number that we had previously, but they would consider something lower. So that's where we are. But we got to come to a conclusion as to what that number, and for the board.
Let's
I
try to
asked
get a
that-
number. If we can't, in my opinion, we can't get 65, let's get as close as we can, and let's just move forward and get this thing approved.
Yeah, no, like I said, that's understood.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so that motion's tabled. Resolution 2023-124, resolution authorizing notice to probationary employee.
Should we table this to executive session and talk about it afterwards?
Okay, is that a motion second? All in favor? Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed with the table. Okay, next item is Resolution 2023-125, resolution adopting certificate of base percentages, current base proportions, and certificate of adjusted base proportions from the New York State Office of Real Property Services. This is a standard resolution, that we do.
It's Joe's favorite resolution.
Yes.
There's a big black box formula that numbers go into, and they come out.
Are we seeing any significant changes to the base rate proportions, homestead versus non-homestead?
I don't know. We could certainly ask the assessor.
Well, we've asked them in the past to come, and when we discussed that at the, in connection with the budget, but I have not seen him, so.
So we can reach out to him and ask him that question. I don't know, on the document, does it have year over year? I'm not sure.
I mean, it's hard to, for the layperson to
It's
read
even
there.
hard for,
Yeah.
it's hard for me.
Okay, so we're not going to have the answer right now, but I would be curious to know ahead of the adoption of the budget where the base rate proportions, homestead versus non-homestead, will stand in fiscal year '24 versus the current year.
I intended to reach out to him to come to the public hearing and speak to us. That's the next resolution, so we get a full summary of that and make a decision based on that.
Thank you.
So we do need to approve this tonight. We just need to figure out what the numbers are going to be down the road for budgeting purpose. So I'll move it.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor? Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passes. The next item is Resolution 2023-126, resolution setting a public hearing on proposed benefit assessment rolls for special improvement districts and special improvement areas for fiscal year 2020. Is it 2022?
That needs to be corrected.
That needs to be corrected. So that will be for fiscal year, is it 2024? then?
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
2024. And
It's correct in the resolution, it's just the title.
Okay, and to hear any objections there too.
Move.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor? Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passes. Next item is Resolution 2023-127, resolution setting public hearing on proposed budgets, O&M charges, water, sewer rates, and rents for special improvement districts and special improvement areas for fiscal year 2024, and to hear any objections there too.
So this is all the Mike Tremper came out
Yes,
information, the booklet, because he gave us a budget outline.
And he'll be here too.
Okay, excellent.
Is there a
Move it.
motion second? All in favor? Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passes. And the next item is Resolution 2023-128, Town of Wappinger proclamation of Native American Heritage Month, the same as really we did last year to recognize Native Americans.
Move it.
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor? Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. The next item is Resolution 2023-129. This is proclamation of Columbus Day as Italian American Heritage Day.
I'll move it.
Second.
Okay. Motion and second. All in favor? Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passes. The next item is Resolution 2023-130. This is a resolution authorizing the return of the Community Development Block Grant Award. Tim, this is based on discussions where they say in order for us to be able to apply for future grants, we have to turn this one back in.
Right, so, I mean, for lots of reasons we discussed with this group, that, under the provisions of the grant, they wanted this space, if renovated, to be fully controlled with heat and what have you, and that was never really while we had this scope identified, the cost of that was anywhere from $400,000 to $730,000. And our intent was to have it as a seasonal space, which would completely reduce that scope. But furthermore, when looking at all the costs included, they would not honor a seasonal allowance. It had to be fully kind of conditioned space. So my suggestion, as a matter of sort of closing the chapter, is to formally go back to them and say, we're not going to move forward on this. Jonathan presented, a potential renovation here, and I just think in good faith, close the books on one if we're going to try to reapply for.
And they've indicated that that would be the case, that once we close the books on this one. Tim's explored every possible option, including using some of this money, if not all of it, for the senior center here. And I think I recommend that we adopt this resolution.
I'll move it.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor? Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passes. The next item is Resolution 2023-131. This resolution setting public hearing for purchase of real property adjacent to Reese Park. Jim, why don't you just briefly summarize?
So with respect to this resolution, the town board is not required to do a public hearing for this under the law, since you're not adopting any bonding for this. But I had a discussion with the board informally, and the board indicated that they'd like to get public input and schedule a formal hearing, a public hearing on this to get input from the public. This is for a property on Route 9D, right at the southern edge of the village, just south of that, and it, as it says in the resolution, abuts Reese Park, which would give much better access from 9D into Reese Park. There is a house on the property which the town intends to tear down once it's purchased, and the intent is to use a portion of the property at some small parking area, as well as trails that go into the property. Under recent amendments to the seeker regulations, the acquisition of any park land, any land for park purposes less than 25 acres is a type 2 action and not subject to seeker review. So we do not have to conduct an environmental assessment review or an environmental review on the property, on the purchase. The board intends to use a fund balance to purchase the property rather than obtain any debt financing, which eliminates the need for a public hearing for bonding or for a permissive referendum. So, the only requirement that for a permissive referendum, if you're buying it with out your monies.
So if I can say, I've not been an advocate of spending money on buying parkland because we have much of it. However, this is a unique opportunity, in my opinion, to purchase a piece of property that will improve access to the Greenway Trail on 9D, which leads into Reese Park. And there have been challenges with individuals parking their vehicles alongside the roadway there, which is very dangerous, and in front of people's homes, in some cases obstructing ingress and egress from people's driveways. So this particular parcel happens to sit right on the property line of Reese Park. It also, I believe, abuts the municipal boundary of the village, which really gives it a unique location for village access from the sidewalk and also motorist access from 9D. I think that this is a win-win for the town, acquiring this property that sits adjacent to the park, which will essentially make it part of the park, really, because it's adjacent to it. So I would like to move this resolution.
Before you do, I just have a couple of questions before you bring the resolution. So we have building takedown and paving we have to do, correct?
Yeah.
So I don't know how much that's going to cost, but that's not part of the purchase price naturally.
No, right.
So any idea what that's going to cost? Because that's going to have to come out of probably fund balance too, because you're not going to bond for that.
But we can get an estimate from the engineer. I mean, typically, I think in the costs recent years, it's probably in the neighborhood of what, 10, 20? I mean, the big question is whether or not there's asbestos.
Yeah, I was going to say.
That's the thing I was worried about.
Yeah. I think we have options to finance that with fund balance, hopefully be fund balance, and/or Parkland Trust for capital improvement to the property if it's going to be part of the park, and we can get further
I mean, I see numbers of
determination.
I just want to make sure when we look at this purchase price, it's more than just the purchase price here. You've got additional costs that you're going to have to pay for to make it, available for the rail trail, et cetera, or Reese Park.
The Greenway Trail, I agree with looking at that ahead of time.
I'm okay with seconding your motion, though, I just want to make sure that
Right.
everybody's out there understands.
Just for the record, for the public's information, it's stated in the resolution, the purchase price is $150,000.
Correct.
Right.
The assessed value of the property on the current tax rolls is $325,000.
Yeah.
And the land value alone is assessed at, I believe, $145,000.
Correct.
So,
Yeah, it's again, it's I think it's a smart use of taxpayer dollars. I think the benefits certainly outweighs the costs. I appreciate Councilman Casella's inquiry with respect to additional costs, because often there have been times where something is purchased and then you find out later on that it costs you more to remediate it than it did to buy it, right? In this case, the number of residents that I have dealt with, over the past 2 decades that have either complained about cars parking there, or individuals that say they can't even figure out a place to access the trail, this is really going to give us that opportunity because the sidewalk ends right there at that property. So village walkable access is right there, built in. And then by putting a small parking lot there, it's going to give folks that are not able to walk there an opportunity to go to that property, that park. So, and also, let me just say this further. As Jim said, we could have just bought this on resolution right now. We did think it was valuable to have a public hearing and give the public an opportunity to express their opinion on this as well. So again, I'll move this.
Tim, can you give us an idea how much it's going to cost
Yeah, I'll try to take a look at it.
to do the
and see.
connection and everything? Just so, because I'm sure the residents are going to ask for October 10th, and that would be valuable information for them to know.
The other thing you got to consider, too, is the condition of the building today.
Can we get in it?
Is there any safety issues once we purchase it? Because now it does become an insurance liability. God forbid somebody gets hurt on the property.
It's all boarded up.
It's been secured and shored up.
I had them do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
we can try to.
So we have a motion and second.
Please.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passes. Thank you. The next resolution is Resolution 2023-132, acknowledgement of the correspondence log.
Move.
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor? Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passes. Next item we've already passed on the change orders. Any items for special consideration, new business? Again, reminder everyone, we have Carnival, our fall event that's coming up on the 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th of October at Schlothouse Park. We have information going out to all of our various media.
Please come. It'll be fun.
Let me just say real quick, there have been 2 situations in the last week that are notable that should be mentioned. The Chelsea Fire Department responded to a structure fire on Route 9D just north of A&W Scrap, and the quick action of Chelsea led to saving that residence and saving all the first floor belongings of that family. It was a 5:45 a.m. fire, and again, their actions made the difference. And I like to highlight these things because the general public doesn't normally see this. Unfortunately, that family did lose their second floor belongings, but the building still stands and they have their first floor belongings, and no one was injured. The other situation which occurred yesterday is we had an individual on a town road we'll say off All Angels Hill Road, who became unconscious and came in as an unconscious male, possibly CPR in progress. Our town patrol unit was 2 minutes from the scene and arrived on scene to determine that this subject was choking on a pork chop. And the deputy sheriff that was on duty was able to clear the airway within 2 minutes and save that individual's life. So these things happen every day. I appreciate everyone that, especially the town board, who participated in the First Responder Awards. It always seems like every year, the week after the award ceremony, a couple things happen, right? And these are no exception. So again, those that were able to attend, those that were participants, and those that received recognition, this town and my colleagues have consistently taken the position of recognition for those that go above and beyond. So I thank my colleagues for being there as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
We are extremely blessed in this community to have these volunteers and these men and women to take care of us. So if we never see any of them, thank them. We thank them.
Any other new business comments? Okay, then I'd like to entertain a motion to go in the executive session to discuss the tabled resolution concerning notice to probationary employee.
I'll move it.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor? Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passes.